Bismillahirrahmanirrahim and Assalamu alaikum. Today we are going to discuss another short story. It is Bingo, written by Tariq Rehman. This short story has a political background as well as political implications. Although it is a very interesting short story, and when you read it, it gives a sense of pleasure, but at the same time, it arouses a dilemma inside you, being a Pakistani person, being a Pakistani student, and being the student of a literature. This short story has a background in the events of 1971 as well. Now, the short story starts in a military academy in Pakistan. Pakistan today, because previously it was East Pakistan and West Pakistan, the Pakistan that is today, and the ex Pakistan that has now become Bangladesh. So, the uh, students or the cadets from both parts of the Pakistan, they were in the military academy and they were training. The person who is the protagonist of this short story is named as Safir, and he is narrating this short story. Now, he tells that the training during their term in academy was very difficult. The winter nights they would be working or training in snow and cold water, and similarly, like every day was a new challenge for them. So life goes on. There is his roommate, and he belonged to today's Bangladesh. His name was Tajassur. Now, the problem is that the lens of Safir, or the viewpoint of Safir about the people who belong to that part or who belong to today's Bangladesh, uh, it was not good. He looked down upon them. In his consideration, Tajassur, he was a dumb person. He was not interested in military activities or military trainings, and he was more of a fun, and he would try to tell jokes and make people laugh. Now, Safir says that Tajassur was very much famous in the whole academy, that everybody would like try to make him laugh, or everybody would come and punish him just to see how he reacts. So the seniors, the juniors, and everybody was interested in making Tajassur laugh, so in turn they would laugh because Tajassur had boyish looks. He was very soft spoken, and he would not try to indulge or argue about things. So everybody would be trying to come and they would like tease Tajassur. Now, Safir quotes so many stories where he proves that Tajassur was a very dumb and stupid sort of person. But the dilemma is that whether he was stupid or not, Safir looked upon him as a stupid person. Why? Because he belonged to Bangladesh. Now, Safir says that he called him Bingo just because he belonged to Dhaka. Now, life goes on, the training goes on, and then the day comes when they passed out. So when they pass out, they join the military services on the very first day of their orientation. What happens that the commander, he when he takes introduction of everyone, he then talks very much strict and very rude against the role of Bengalis in the war of 1857. Although it has passed a century or more than a century ago, yet this Pakistani mind has this thing in mind, and they were trying to blame Bengalis for the or Bangladesh people for the defeat of war in 1857. So everybody listened and cheered, but the Jassur could not adopt it. He could not digest this thing because he had been listening to all these things during his tenure in academy, but now it was just going beyond his mental capabilities or beyond his limits of absorbing. So he says to his commander that, sir, war is not the product of power. Like, war does not come because you are powerful. War always wages when there is exploitation in the society. And you people have been exploiting the other part, means us, means the Bengalis. So that is why the war is going to come. And this was in the context because in 1971, there was a separatist movement of Bangladesh to be like the people of that part of Pakistan wanted to become wanted to have a separate nation or to a separate country, means Bangladesh. So there was this war going on, although it started as a political war, and then later on it turned into a civilian war, and then India helped the people of Bangladesh, that is today, they helped him, and Pakistani's army surrendered over there. So this was the dilemma there. So Tajassur, he says this thing, everybody minds it, and Tajassur decides that the war is coming, because the war will be Pakistani people with the Pakistani people. Although they had to become Bangladesh, yet he refused to fight against his own people, and he leaves his job and goes back to his own uh, homeland or to his own village. Now everybody laughs at him or at his decision. Everybody thinks that he's very stupid, he's very foolish, because he has decided to leave the services, although he has done his training. Yet his inner self, the inner self of Tajassur, is very much satisfied. He thinks that he has made a very good decision. Then what happens? Uh, the war starts. When the war starts, so Pakistani means this today's Pakistani army go into the Bangladeshi part, and then things go wrong and they surrender. So Safir, as a lieutenant, is caught up there, and on the next day he had to be shot down to be killed. In the meanwhile, the Jassur comes and he rescues Safir and takes him to his home, and gives him a good sense of hospitality and takes very good care of him. Then the next day, Safir decides to leave, and the Jassur also tries to help him so that he could reach his own platoon or his own forces. In the meanwhile, when they are leaving, Pakistani army or commandos, they reach to rescue Safir, and he also introduces himself, and they shot down the Jassur first. Then they enter into the house of the Jassur and they rape his sister, the young sister of the Jassur, and later on his mother becomes mad at seeing the things, because she was not able to believe the person who she had just helped, and his persons came and they tried to kill them. So she becomes agonized, and she has an agony, and starts acting like a mad person, because her son has been killed and her daughter has been raped. So in the meanwhile, Safir takes up the gun and he kills this mother of the Jassur. And when they are going, he gets the news that their army has already surrendered. So now Safir thinks that he is a bingo, because he is a traitor. But he says in his heart that now the Jassur is not there to listen to his cries, because the Jassur was not a traitor. He was a traitor and he is a traitor. And the story ends here. So this was the short summary of the story. Now coming towards the critical part, or to analyze it, we come across this view that from the very start, although when in 1947 Pakistan, means the two part of Pakistan, East and West, they got independence from the British and India came into being, the problem was there, because the today's Pakistan, or the people of today's Pakistan, they were not very much on equal level to the then Pakistan, means the Bangladeshian part, that is now today we call it as Bangladesh. So they considered themselves as superior, and in the story we see that Safir considered the Jassur as subhuman, means they don't accept them as human beings. So this conflict between the human beings was there, although they belong to the same nation, although they belong to the same flag, although they belong to the same name country, yet there was a rift between them. And the rift was not something like it was brought by the outsiders from the country, or brought by the colonial masters. No, it was between the people, because one considered themselves as superior, the other were considered as inferior. And this takes us to the same concept of colonialism. Like, although English colonized other Pakistani people or the sub-Asian people, subcontinent people, sorry, they considered themselves, the colonial masters, they considered themselves superior, while us, means we, were considered as inferior. And after the inception of Pakistan, what happened? There are two parts of Pakistan, one East Pakistan, one West Pakistan. So now the major portion was here, like the four provinces, and that Bangladesh was one province, one unit, as another unit, sorry. So this part, this today's Pakistan, they considered them as inferior. Now again, although they broke the shackles of colonialism, yet they had this thing in mind, that they started to consider themselves as superior and the others were considered as inferior. So this rift was going on, and this was bound to happen, that they had to be separate. Why? Because of the treatment. Why? Because of the injustice. Why? Because of the inhumane viewpoint about those people. So what happens? It becomes Bangladesh in 1971, and Pakistani army, who considered themselves as superior and who considered themselves as powerful, they surrender to the army, and they surrender to the people of the Bangladesh, and now Bangladesh is a rising nation in the world. So this basically deals with the concept of how Bangladesh came into being. Like, this treatment was only in the military. Military is considered to be the greatest institution of any country. So if this exploitation and domination concept is there in the military perspectives, one can understand how it will be in the society, because they are the people who are in contact on the borders, and they have to create a good viewpoint. Now what happened in, like, when the colonialism started, the British colonialism, so the first, what would happen, this army or the military would come in contact with the people of the colonial land. So they would come in contact, and they would create or narrate the stories which would arouse hate in the people of the nation, means the British people. So this would happen, and same was going on there, that in the military academy of Pakistan, they were not considered as equal Pakistanis. They were considered as superior and inferior. One considered himself as very powerful, very intelligent, very genius, and bound to success, while the other was considered subhuman. Although he passed exam and he knows how to pass, a Safir in one of the lines, he says that although the Jassur was very much not interested in studies, but he would read for 1 hour and he would pass the exam. What does it show? It shows that he was intelligent, but because of the treatment, but because of the way he was treated in the military academy, he was not willing to study and willing to hard work, because he knew that if he works hard and he gets a good rank, he would still be considered a bingo, he would still be considered a traitor, and there was no good future for him. And just because that this concept of future was not there for him, he left the job. And not only he left the job, there would be number of people, hundreds and thousands, who would have left the job, and they would have thought that living together in Pakistan with Pakistani, because the people of that part were not considered as Pakistani, so living in Pakistan with Pakistani was difficult, and they decided to leave Pakistan, or to leave the union of Pakistan, and to become a separate nation, Bangladesh. So this is the whole concept of how colonialism plays the role. Not only, like, colonialism was not ended in 1947. This story shows how colonialism was there in 1971, and it is still here or there in the minds of Pakistani people. When the domination and subjugation, it crosses the limits of digestivity, and when one cannot tolerate more, what happens? Wars come, divisions come, separatist movements come, and then the problem is that humanity suffers. And humanity here in Pakistan, humanity there in Bangladesh, it suffered. Why? Because in 1947 we all suffered. People got divided, people got killed, people got raped, and similarly the same thing happened. People got divided, people got killed, and a number of women got raped. And why? Just because the ego, that this part was superior, that part was inferior, this part was powerful, that part was not powerful. And this will continue forever in every nation or in every part where equality is not there, where humanity is not there, where there is no concept of equal people, where there is always concept of superior and inferior. I hope I have discussed each and every dimension of this short story. If there is any question, please comment it or put it into the comment box. Till then, thank you very much. Allah Hafiz.